Hey everyone, are you a real estate investor looking to build your own list for off-market property deals? Maybe you face the challenge of sifting through multiple PDF documents manually where you can't do Control F to find the information that you need. Well, in this video, I'm actually going to show you with Python how to transform PDF documents into text and then use natural language processing with artificial intelligence in order to actually get the context of those documents. My name is Ariel Herrera with the AnalyticsAriel channel, where we bridge the gap between real estate and technology. If you believe that this is something that can help your business in the long term using automation, then please subscribe to our channel as well as like this content so we can bring more of it to you. All right, let's get started. In the last video, we spoke about how to actually automate building your foreclosure list using Selenium and Python. So if you haven't checked that out already, please do if you really want to make this process automated from end to end, all the way from extracting and building a foreclosure list for free, and then to the final process of sending out mailers or documents to these owners of the foreclosure properties. So one of the reasons why I'm really interested in foreclosures right now is because there's already a low supply of properties on the market. So due to COVID-19 in 2020, many people, actually 3 million, went into mortgage forbearance. And what this means is that they were unable to pay their mortgage month by month. So possibly they lost their job or there was some other sufferance where they couldn't pay. And what happened here is that these individuals are going to have to either pay that lump sum at the end of their mortgages, or they may need to go into foreclosure at some point. So there actually may be more properties coming onto the market. And the second reason why I'm interested is because Biden has also extended evictions that cannot actually happen until September of 2021. So for all those small mom and pop investors who own 10 properties or less, this can actually be very detrimental. They're not able to get that rent to pay the mortgages. We could see a lot of properties coming onto the market as well. So this prompted me to ultimately purchase this book by Bigger Pockets called A Step-by-Step Guide to Investing in Real Estate Foreclosures, as I'm a total newbie to this space, and overall, there's a lot of good information here. One of them being is that they have this resource page that's actually for free. And on the second bullet for their resources, they actually have a spreadsheet for list building, which is a great way to understand how to build foreclosure lists for auction and being able to assess the properties that you want to go after. In the last video, we talked about actually building this foreclosure list automatically instead of doing it by hand. And this is an example on the Hillsborough County site where it has a calendar of the foreclosure information. So what we did was we went specifically to February 26th, and we were able to scrape this data using Selenium and Python. Then if we were to go to, say, this first case, and we want to look at the final judgment, it's going to bring us over to this public record search. We can click the first one, and again, we could always automate this with web scraping. However, the challenge here is that we get to this PDF document, and say if we want to look at just down here, the value of claim, that's something that we want to extract for some reason. If we do Control F and do value of claim, we're not going to have anything come up. And the reason is because this is actually a scanned document. It's not actually a digital document that was created, say, in Word and uploaded. So we can't parse the contents. So what we're going to be doing is using Google Colab with Python to transform these PDF documents into text. That way we can get the crucial information that we need automatically instead of having to actually read these documents. And we're going to use NLP to extract the right contents that we want. So right now I'm in Google Colab, and please let me know if you like this format better. Usually I do these videos in Databricks or Jupyter Notebook, but I'm thinking that Google Colab might be better since you don't have to actually download anything locally, and you could just make a copy and run this notebook as is. So the first thing we're going to do is install packages that we need, and I'm going to run this. This is going to start to install the PDF, PyPDF2, which is going to allow us to transform this PDF document, to extract, to take out the text, and then 2 other ones as well. The difference between pip and apt-get: pip is specifically for Python packages, and apt-get installs packages from Ubuntu. So once that runs, the next step is we want to actually import these libraries so that we could use it. So I'm importing several different libraries. Again, we have the PDF ones that were just mentioned. Google Colab has a specific way that you can actually upload files, which is really cool. So I'm also importing that. And then there's 2 different NLP libraries I'm importing, which is NLTK and Spacey. NLTK is a string processing library, whereas Spacey is object-oriented. I'll walk you through actually some of the methods and functions you can call for both. And then lastly, for Spacey, they have a pre-trained statistical model. That's something that we're going to be also importing as well. So once this runs, we also want to download certain packages. So with these NLP libraries, they actually have packages that you can further download to tokenize your words, so to actually break up your sentence, to remove words like stop words, which is like this, is, things that don't really have that much meaning towards it. And then we're also going to be doing parts of speech tagging, which we'll later use. So our next step is with Google Colab, we're going to actually upload our PDF file. So what I'm going to do is go back to where this file was. I'm going to save it to my downloads. And the next step I'm going to do is run this, which is going to allow me to choose a file. I'm going to choose a file that I just downloaded. And you can see here the file just is uploading, 80% done, 100% done. Name of the file, we could print it as well. So this is great. Now we have our file able to be worked with. And now we want to actually read the contents of our file. So let me walk you through what this is going to be doing. First step is we're opening our file name, we're reading in our file. Second is that we are now passing this into the PyPDF2 reader so it can be parsed. And we're looking at the number of pages that's in there. Then we're going to loop through each page to actually extract this text. Now, if it's a scanned file, it's not going to be able to extract this text easily. So we're going to use another library, the OCR library, to use text-rect in order to convert the scanned image into a PDF file into text. And the language, we could specify that here in case you had a PDF document that's a different language, but this one is English. Great, so now it's finished processing and we can actually run this here. We have our text, we just decoded it, and we see that it's a string. This actually does match the PDF that we just sent in. So we see Hillsborough County, 13th Judicial Court, Circuit Civil Division. If we go back up here, we could see that information up top. So it was able to extract the text. Now if we want to explore this text a little bit more, we could use some of the NLP libraries to word tokenize, to actually split up our words. So we could get each word on its own. We could remove some punctuations, take out stop words, common words like the, I, and then we can list these so we could see the first 50 words that come up in our PDF document, which this can be useful later on, say if you want to do word counts, or if you wanted to dive more into the content of the words itself. However, I want to look at this in a little bit of a nicer format, so I'm going to actually write this file down, and then I'm going to read it. And you can see when you read it, this looks very, very neat. It's very similar to how this was sectioned off over here in this document. And if you notice, back before when we had just first read it in, up here, there's this /n, and what that means is that it's Python encoding breaks. So where there's going to be different breaks between sections of words. So that's why we see these breaks over here when we read it in. So now that we have this in a format that we can actually process. If we wanted to, we could just stop here. However, we want to get certain information that's useful for us, so let's keep going and now bring in natural language processing. So for those of you that might be new to natural language processing, what it basically is that it refers to language used by humans, used by us to communicate with each other. This is either verbal or textual, such as tweets, blogs, emails, texts, you name it. And what natural language processing does is that it interprets the language that we're speaking so that it could be understood by a computer. And this works in various different areas. One of the ones that you probably are very familiar with is using the Amazon Echo. I'm not going to say the name because it's going to chime in the background, but we're able to actually ask questions like the weather or play a song for me, and it's able to interpret that using natural language processing. So actually being able to extract text and interpret it. And what we see here for parts of speech tagging, what's really important is to be able to interpret what the meaning of the word is. So say if I was saying a sentence that was, I need to go on Google in order to search the weather. Google is a noun in that instance. However, if I'm saying, oh, let me Google what the weather is, that's now a verb, it's an action that I'm taking. So it's difference there, and it's really awesome that Spacey allows you to get the parts of speech tagging and they can interpret which meaning you were actually going for. So as we said, we can get parts of speech such as the verb, the noun, and so on. But I'm going to actually use an example here. So here I'm creating a Spacey document that we can actually use parts of speech tagging on. So the sentence I have here is, I like to do boxing. I hated it in my childhood though. This is actually partially true. So my sentence, I actually passed it through the NLP, which was previously imported above. And the next thing I can do is actually for each word in my sentence, because now it's an actual C object, so I can iterate through each of these words, and we can now look at the text, the parts of speech, the word tag, and the explanation of what that is. So if we look here, I'm actually going to run these cells. We could see that boxing is a noun, which is correct, hated a verb, childhood noun. So say if we were parsing this is a document, and we wanted to get the nouns of what is this person talking about in this 30-page document, for example. Being able to grab the nouns and then use their verbs to maybe gauge, or adjectives to gauge feelings, we can maybe assess what this article is even talking about, or PDF document, before even diving into it, and that's the real beauty of it. So what Spacey is doing is that it actually comes with a pre-built machine learning algorithm that allows it to understand the context of the word based on surrounding words. So this is a really neat visual, how with that same sentence, I like to do boxing, I hated it in my childhood though, we could see which words had dependencies on one another. And that dictates what the part of speech tagging is. So next is that we can actually run this using NLTK, any chunk, where we're word tokenizing. So we're breaking down each of our words in our sentence into its own string. We're putting the parts of speech tagging. And for every single word in here in our PDF document, we can get the part of speech, which is really awesome. This is the PDF document that we had previously been able to transform from PDF to text. As you notice here, there's some things like periods and numbers, so depending on your use case, you might want to get rid of these beforehand, but because we're working with a document that has to do with foreclosures and money and decimals are needed because it might be interesting, I'm going to keep it in for now. So our last step here is that we can actually render this PDF document and we can see the parts of speech tagging in a visual sense. So this is using DisplaySee, we're rendering the PDF document. And from what we could see, GP, that stands for geography, so it's able to pick up Hillsborough County, it's able to pick up Florida, able to pick up Mary Tesfaye, which is the person who this property is being foreclosed on. Information on money it's able to pick up. And this is with me not doing any sort of like pre-processing or customizing this model at all. So it does a really good job of just picking up things that we're interested in right off the bat. So if I really wanted to be able to parse out information and say, okay, for every PDF document, get me all the organizations or the people or the ones that you claim to be people, I can do that. So I can quickly fill in information that is in this spreadsheet without having to dive into those PDF documents. And that's the real beauty of using natural language processing. So there you go. It's a quick introduction to NLP, how to extract text from PDF documents. I think it could really be useful, and if you want to learn more about it, please feel free to reach out to me individually. As well, please subscribe to our channel so we can bring more content like this to you. Thanks so much.